Hello everyone, it's Dr. Wolfe here, and in this video I want to be touching base on our question, what causes some people to have more melanin towards the equator and less melanin away from the equator? All right, and looking at a couple pieces of our evidence, all right, we see this correlation between UV light and skin color, that we definitely get more UV light towards the equator, less UV light further away, correlates with less and more melanin in the skin, right? So here we have correlation, but that does not mean causation, so we have to come up with some causal mechanisms. We have some information on UV light that it breaks the bonds of DNA, so in other words, it could cause mutations, but it's also really important for us to make vitamin D. We need UV light in order to make vitamin D. All right. We also know, all right, how UV relates to melanin. Skin color is that melanin is that pigment, all right, that absorbs UV light. So it essentially absorbs that UV light, prevents it from going in to affect our cells. All right, so we have this type of connection right here. All right, so from here, a lot of you, from just like hearing you guys talk yesterday, we're making this connection to skin cancer. Right? And we can look at this piece of evidence here is that the lighter skin you have, the less melanin you have, the much more prone you are to developing skin cancer. That makes sense because you're not able to block as much UV radiation, right? And we know from this piece of evidence, right, that 90% of skin cancers are caused by UV radiation, right? So now we have kind of this potential selection pressure of like, okay, this is why it would be advantageous to have more melanin towards the equator to protect against that UV light, right, from developing cancer. Because if you develop cancer, that would prevent you from reproducing and passing on your genes to the next generation. But then we have this piece of evidence right here, right? And it shows us the prevalence of cancer and when do people develop it. And it looks like the majority of people develop it. All right, it's a very prevalent cancer. 1 in 5 people will develop it by 70, but most people are developing it around 70. All right, so if we look towards younger years when people are reproducing, so maybe around here, all right, it's not too prevalent. All right, so then the question is this really a selection pressure, right? If you have variation in a population and you have some folks with more melanin, some folks with less melanin, all right, is skin cancer really playing a role in preventing them from surviving and reproducing? And we can make a pretty good argument here that no, it's really not, right? If you have lighter skin, all right, you could reproduce, pass down the less melanin to your next generation. Are you going to develop cancer later on? Are you more likely to? Yeah, absolutely. But you've already passed down your genes to the next generation, so we wouldn't expect the populations afterwards to really change in terms of the amount of less melanin and more melanin. So this actually doesn't seem to explain what causes darker or more melanin to be more advantageous towards the equator. So if that's the case, then why? All right, what's another factor? Why would having more melanin, all right, where there's more UV light, why would that be more advantageous? What actually is that selection pressure?